All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Win Team. You guys asked me to do some explanation to you about investors and how to work with investors. As you know, investors were a large part of my career. So I'm going to dive in with some initial thoughts on investors both today and tomorrow to help you guys out as you work with investors on our lead flow. As soon as this is over at 7:05, I'm going to jump into spearheading leads. We have an overabundance of leads, and frankly, we need probably 3 times as many agents that are on this call to handle all the leads. So those of you who are touching 1, 2, or 3 customers in the week, guys, you really need to just get on the phone and start calling people and talking to people. We've got tremendous opportunity for you. So I look forward to some of you staying on and making those calls. So let's talk about working with investors. It's always a dream of an agent. If I work with an investor, maybe they'll buy 30 homes a year or 20 homes or 5 homes a year and so on. And for sure, the idea of repeat business is it's wonderful. And I've worked with many investors through the years. Some of them have done repeat and some of them have not. So it's a worthy goal to seek out investors. I would say this. I would encourage you not to anticipate investors being immediate money. The idea of the Win Team is, how do I make money in 60 days? Typically, you don't make money with investors in 60 days. You make money with your regular consumer through your power office open houses, through your leads that come in through our team. That's where you're going to make your money right away following our system. However, it's definitely worth having investors in your pipeline. You need to really screen them carefully. So let me go into the beginning of this today. How do you win investors from online leads? Understand, investors move fast, frankly, much faster than real estate agents. Frankly, most of them work much harder than real estate agents. Many of them work around the clock. They're up early in the morning checking out their properties. They're still working towards the end of the day. The myth that investors just have these properties and somehow they magically make money and they sit at the beach all the time, that's a realtor dream. It's not usually an investor reality. Investors are working their properties. And if they're not, they're refinancing their properties, they're reshaping their portfolio so they can invest in more properties. So investors have to feel in you the same kind of energy that they have themselves, which is speed to lead. So many of these calls that come into us, some of them, I would say 25 to 30%, are people who are investors, investing in land, investing in single family homes. So calling or texting immediately, super important because investors move fast. It's also important to establish credibility up front with investors. Show that you understand investment math. Can anybody tell me what ARV is?
After repair value.
Exactly. So after repair value is, let's say the property today is 450 grand and you're going to put in 100,000 into it, 550. You're going to want the after repair value to be at least 675 to make it worthwhile to the investor. So what they want to know is, what do they have to pay now? How much cash are they going to have to put in to fix it up? How much is it going to cost them to hold the property, utilities, interest payments, and so on? And then what's their net margin at the end? So ARV is super important to flip investors. Now, long-term hold investors would be more interested in the seconds. Does anybody know what cap rate is? Does anybody know what cap?
No.
Okay.
Isn't it your monthly income less your expenses? That's commercial times 10.
Yes, it's pretty good. So it's pretty good explanation. Anybody else got any idea what cap rate is? Richard did pretty good here. Anybody want to know what cap rate is?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So cap rate is what's called capitalization rate, how quickly you capitalize your capital, right? So you calculate cap rate by the annual net operating income. So what's gross operating income? Does anybody know?
All of the revenue that you receive from the rental of the property, from vending machines, from et cetera.
Money before expenses.
Yes. So gross operating income is basically all the money that comes in. So it could be, to Richard's point, Used to be the money from the laundry machines, right? Or it could be vending machines if it's apartment building, whatever, right? It's any form of income that comes in from the real estate. That's your gross operating income. Now, to get not net operating income, what do you take out of that? So let's say you're renting something for $4,000 a month. That's 48 grand a year, right? Gross operating income is 48 grand a year. What do you take out of that to get net operating income?
Any expenses? Your
Such
rent,
as?
your rent or your
No, wait a second.
mortgage
You're
payment,
the landlord, so you got to
your
take.
mortgage payment.
No. So that's what's very interesting. For cap rate, you do not deduct your mortgage payment. What do you deduct for net operating income? It's operating income. That's it, the hint word right there. So
Okay.
The
yeah,
expenses of running the building.
such as?
Insurance,
Yes. What else?
Maintenance.
Yes.
Any
Yes.
utilities, any utilities
Taxes.
that
So
the
utilities,
that
Jonathan, utilities if the owner pays them.
correct.
Got it, bro? So
Yeah, like
property
water.
management, you got that. Maintenance and repairs, you got that. Insurance, you got that. There's one other big one you're missing. The
I
property
don't know if
taxes.
Property
taxes.
taxes.
Is
Yeah,
it taxes?
yeah,
Okay.
what
yeah.
about vacancy rate?
Not in this calculation. There is an extrapolation of ROI, but not in your, not in your basic cap rate. Your basic cap rate, you're going to take your gross revenue minus property taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, property management, and utilities if the owner pays it. So, for example, if you've got 48,000 in gross income and 18K, 18K in operating expenses, then your net operating income is 48 minus 18, which is 30 grand, right? So now how do you calculate the cap rate? Does anybody know? You divide the net operating income by the cost of the property, right? If you look at a property and it's $500,000, for example, and your net operating income is $30,000, you divide 30,000 by 500,000, and that's 0.06. That means that the cap rate is 6%. 0.06 is 600ths, 6%, a percentile is a hundredth. So that's 6%. So you divide your net operating income by the purchase price, and that gives you your cap rate. And it used to be years ago, you could get 8s and 9s. Some people are buying property with cap rates of 2, right? Why would you buy a property with a cap rate of 2? Anybody? This is the kind of stuff you're going to need to know if you're going to work with investors. Why would you buy?
If they need a deduction,
Mm,
a
there's
tax deduction.
Room for improvement. Good
yeah,
negotiation
very
room,
few
so you
investors that
can
will
get a
buy a
lower
property
price.
There's very few investors that will buy property, lose money just because they want a tax deduction. Very few.
Do
Is
they
it a
want to hold?
negotiation point
What
to
was that,
lower
Jonathan?
price?
What?
Is it a negotiation point for a lower price?
100% happens all the time. But why would an investor buy close escrow on a property with a low cap rate?
Potential future income.
Exactly. Yes, so that's an interesting answer. So potential future income, lots of investors try to buy property where the rents are low, therefore the gross operating and net operating income is low because it's badly managed and there's not enough rent, and so they can turn that around. That's the whole idea of mergers and acquisitions in corporations. You buy a company that's not performing and then you get it to perform and you can 10x your money. So if a property has got 40% below market rents and it's being really poorly managed, you've got constant management costs, then you could turn that around, couldn't you? So that could be a reason why. Or it could be future accrual value. So some people might buy, a fourplex in Santa Monica going, look, there aren't that many fourplexes. And even though my cap rate is low, I can afford it and it's going to be worth a lot more in the future, right? So there's just a quick overview. That's cap rate. Can anybody tell me again how you calculate cap rate? What is it?
divide net
divide by
operated
purchase price.
income
Yes.
by
Divide
purchase
net
price.
operating income by
Minus
Purchase price.
purchase price. What's a GRM?
Gross.
Revenue,
No,
no,
close.
gross.
Rate.
Gross rent multiplier.
Okay.
So this
Gross
was
rent
used. This is
multiplier.
used like as a quick look by investors. Very few investors will buy a property based on gross rent multiplier, but it's a quick look at it, right? So gross rent multiplier would be if you had a property that brought in $40,000 and it was 400,000. Your gross rent multiplier is what?
10.
10. So what's better for investors when they're buying a home, a low GRM or a high GRM?
A high.
Actually, it's the opposite.
Mm.
So think about it. If you've got 40 grand coming in and you only have to pay 120 grand for the property, in 3 years, you've paid for the property, right? So the lower the GRM, the more attractive it is to the investor. Right now, ROI is for both short-term and long-term investors. So what does ROI mean?
Your return on investment.
Right. And how do you calculate return on investment?
Well, obviously, it would probably be the difference between what you could sell it for and what you bought it for.
No, I think the
No.
repairs.
It's good. Keep thinking, guys. How do you
Mhm.
calculate return on investment? Let's say it's a
Wouldn't
flip
you
look.
have to
Oh,
have
how
like a
much your
set
monthly
number of
gross
years to
income
do that?
is?
No. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Wouldn't you have to have like, by this time, what is my ROI? Like as far as years per post purchase?
Yeah, time has something to do with it. Sure. It doesn't actually define what return on investment is. So let's say you bought a house for 300, put in 100, sold it for 500, 50 on commissions, you made 50 grand, right?
That
Right.
would be your
You
return
took
on investment.
No, that would be
No?
your net profit.
Oh, that would
So
be your net profit, yeah.
your net profit's 50 grand, right?
Mhm.
And if you put in, let's say you put in 20 grand, not 100, what would be your return on investment? If you put in 20 and you got out 50, it's 2.5 times. So it's 250%, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? That's a very good investment. What if you put in 100 and got out 50? Let's say it's 50 profit and you put in 100. So you put in 100, you get out 150, right?
Not a great deal.
So you've made 50 grand on 100. So they'll calculate what their return on investment is. So ARV, cap rate, gross rent multiplier, and return on investment. It's very important you know what those are when somebody asks you, somebody says to you, look, I want a gross rent multiplier of 2. I won't buy anything if it's 3 or over. You're probably wasting your time. Right? Comes to you and says, I'll buy anything with a cap rate of 7 or over. Now, what you're going to find is because you're new at this, investors will tell you pretty much anything and see how gullible you are and how much you know. And if they say, yeah, I want a cap rate of 6, you go, great, I'll find you properties by the weekend. They know that you don't know what you're doing. Because they know that they're looking at caps at 3s and 4s. And very often when there is a high cap rate now, there's something really squirrely about the property, like unpermitted units, illegal stuff going on with the property, which helps them increase the revenue. This happens a lot. For example, I would have people come at me with high cap rate properties, and you'd find that on the tax record, it was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. They've split it into 2-bedroom, 2 baths. There's no permits. And they're getting the rent, but there's no permits. Some people will take that risk, most won't. So in fact, I just had an investor come to me last week, and he said to me, I bought this and and can you sell it? And I said, well, this is what the tax records say, and this is what you did. And he said, well, I've got all the paperwork. I said, send me the paperwork. He couldn't send me the paperwork. Of course, he got mad at me because he was trying to pull the wool over my eyes and get me to put something on the MLS that would lose my license. So speed to lead, super important if you're working with investors. Be credible, know what you're talking about, and position yourself as a partner. they're going to feel partnership, not if you sit there and wait for them to say, hey, I found a home, which unfortunately, as real estate agents, we've been rather notorious for. But when you're constantly feeding them deals, try this, look at that. Let me give you a really good tip here. When I started working with investors, I thought they would buy what I sent to them. What I learned very early on in the early 90s was once an investor sees that you are diligently looking, because I would literally send photocopies by fax to my investors at least every other day. I would find them in the blue book. Every other day, I would send something to them. And that's why I'm talking to you about September being 10 touches. Guys, you have to understand, you want to put 2 properties in escrow, you absolutely have to do 10 touches this week. You have to take these leads and call these leads. And I do understand if this isn't your full-time job, I get that you're just trying to get whatever comes whenever you can. But please let me make it clear, it's math, just like an investor. You want to put 2 properties in escrow, you need to touch 10 people a week. That's it. So decide on the win team where you're going with that, my dear friends, okay? But position yourself as a partner. Consistently feed them deals. Investors, around the clock people, they don't care what time it is. They don't time block. If it's a deal, they're going to go out at any time of day or night. And what I learned was that investors started to call me and say, Andy, you sent me XYZ property. I saw another property up the street I really like. And it's funny, often those were properties that I wouldn't pick. I didn't think the ROI was particularly good. I didn't think, right? But they had something up their sleeve. Maybe they were going to build an ADU. You never know what an investor is going to do. So the fact that you establish credibility and contact means that the investor will reach out to you. Hey, by the way, can you meet me at lunchtime and have a look at that piece of land up on the hill in Paris? I just heard there's somebody going to build a house down the street, and I'm interested in that piece of land now. Now, you can't keep up with all of that information, but if you're sending them information regularly, then they're going to call you. Tomorrow, I'm going to give you hacks on the MLS that most people don't know about that help you find investment properties. Would any of you be interested in attending that tomorrow?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm going to do
Yes.
that tomorrow. I'm going to do that tomorrow. Something that I've done and sold hundreds of properties doing it. All right. Your second piece is you need to define the investor type, right? So if I'm an investor, Jonathan, and I say, yeah, look, I'm looking for an investment, one of the first questions you're going to ask me is, that's great, Andy. Are you a long-term hold investor or a short-term flip investor?
Mm-hmm.
Essential question. So a long-term hold investor is looking for rental income. They're looking for future appreciation. They're looking for cap rates. That's entirely different. So if a long-term hold investor says to you, look, I'm looking for income, right? What would you ask him? How much income, right? And then
Correct.
also you would say how much income, and here's an important question. You would say, are you looking for the property to cash flow? What does cash
Yes.
flow mean, guys? What does cash flow mean?
You're not out
Income.
of pocket on anything.
Correct.
Coming out after expenses.
All right. So if an investor says to you, I'm looking for cash flow of $1,000 a month, and he's looking at a $500,000 property, is it possible? Let's say on that
No,
$500,000 property, the rent is $3,000 a month.
not
Is it
possible.
possible? Huh?
I don't think
It's
so.
not. No.
Well, it actually is. How?
Oh,
Depending
I
upon how
don't.
much money
Increase
you
the
put
rents.
down.
Exactly. Exactly. So two things, either they can increase the rents or it's how much they put down. So when an investor says, I
Okay.
just want it to cash flow, your next question is what?
How much you
How
putting
much? How
down?
much
How
down?
much are you
Yeah,
going to put down?
that's
Exactly. That's
true.
right. Right? So let's say, just very quickly, guys, let's say it's a 500 grand purchase. They're going to put 200 grand down. That's a 300 grand loan. 300 grand loan, what's an investor loan going at right now? 7%, shall we say, roughly? Let's call it 6. 6% of 300,000 is 18,000. That's 1,500 a month. Principal, another 500, 2,000. Property taxes, 600, 2,600 insurance, probably 1,000, 3,600. It doesn't work at 200 grand down. right? So they've got to put $300,000 down right now. That's why interest rates sabotage the real estate investment business. It sabotages the long-term hold. The guys who are doing well right now are the ones who got 2.75 loans on their property. By the way, a lot of commercial loans on commercial buildings only last 10 years. So there's going to be a massive amount of repossessions on office buildings. In fact, many of them are being repossessed now because investors' revenue has dropped because the buildings are 50% vacant, and now their new interest rate is twice what it was before. So the payment's twice as high, the revenue is half as much, and they're just letting the buildings go. Right? So is this helpful to people? Do you like this stuff?
Yes.
I like this stuff. Yes.
So a long-term hold investor is looking for rental income, cap rates, and appreciation. And you need to ask them, hey, what's your intended down payment in order to get that cash flow, right?
Yeah.
Now, what does a short-term flip investor want? They want profit margin, don't they?
Right.
Yes.
And they want to know how long it's going to take to get that margin, because every month they hold the property, they're losing that margin. Now, let me ask you this. If somebody pays $500,000 for a home cash, and they sell it for 700, put in 100, they've got commissions, and it takes 3 months, are they going to make money?
Not very much,
Not
if any.
much.
But they will make some, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But what if they have that 500, put in 100, sell it at 750 in commissions, leaves 50, and they hold it for a year, but they paid cash? Will they make money?
You have to look at their opportunity costs of the money that they didn't invest somewhere else.
Precisely.
Did
Because
they
what
have the
happens
money for the the repairs or not? Also, is it a
It
loan
depends.
also,
or?
It also
yeah,
depends on how much the property went up in value in that year.
right. But let's say it didn't. Let's say it was 517 minus 50 commissions, 50 net. If they hold it for a year, what people don't realize is if an investor pays cash, they could be getting 6% on that cash. That's 30 grand. So they've lost 30 grand. So timeline is really important, whether you pay cash. This is a pretty stupid investor. If you pay cash, you're still losing money every month because you're losing interest on that cash. And if you make a payment, obviously you got to make that payment, and you got to pay the property taxes, and you got to pay HOA, and you got to pay basic utilities to maintain the property so the grass stays green, etc. Right? So,
So if they do that, then they're going to have to switch that from a flip to a long-term investment
100%.
in order.
And people are doing that all the time right now because they're getting caught.
Yeah. I just had
So,
one that did that.
so I used to love working for hedge funds that had two funds. One was a buy and hold, and one was a buy and flip. And so if we did miscalculate, they could roll it over to the buy and hold. So that's a perfect investment scenario. So a short-term flip investor is looking for profit margin, and they're looking for a resale timeline. Now, what about a wholesaler or a scout? We come across a lot of those through Zillow. How many of you have had a wholesaler contact you through Zillow?
Lost count.
Me.
Right. So they don't have money.
No.
So it doesn't mean you can't work with them, but understand they're trying to hold up the property with an assignment clause, to tie up the property with an assignment clause, put it in escrow without putting money in escrow very often. So they'll delay and delay and delay on the EMD, the earnest money deposit. And they just don't have money. Then they try and find another buyer, sell it to him for more money, and do what we call a double escrow. It's becoming more and more difficult to do, particularly with a realtor contract, because the realtor contract, the car contract, clearly states that the contract only allows for assignment to somebody who has the same name as the person who bought it. So if you're John Smith and you have an LLC, you have to be the managing partner in the LLC. You have to be the manager of that LLC in the name of John Smith, or you're not allowed to assign it unless you have specific wording in the contract up front that says that you're allowed to assign this within a given period of time to a non-related entity. Does everybody understand what I just said?
Yes.
Yes.
So with a wholesaler, you need to find out, do they have any money? And do they have somebody to send it on to, or are they just going to market it again themselves? Are you buying to hold for rental income, or are you flipping for a quick resale? Now, look, I just got started on this. I'm going to help you identify investor goals, and most important, financial goals and property goals. And there's a lot of tricks I can teach you there, but also you need to identify how to find those properties with certain hacks on the MLS. Would you guys like me to continue this tomorrow?
Yes.
Yes.
Please.
Yes. Please.
And guys, I don't know how many of us are on here today. I can't see right now who's on here. 18 people. Guys, are we together on the September Perfect 10? Is everybody in with me on that?
Yes.
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 Yep.
Perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
So this week,
Uh-huh.
let's make it happen, my friends, this week. 10
Okay.
touches. Reach out, touch these leads, call these people, and set yourself appointments, right? You do 10 touches, you're going to put 2 in escrow, right? Obviously, after 2 weeks, some of you are showing 3 touches, 2 touches, 1 touches. Yeah, if you're lucky, you'll put 2 in escrow. But really, once you reach week 2, the idea of putting 2 in escrow is pretty thin. And this is what I talk about all the time. It's about creating the stats that bring you inevitable results. And we all want that inevitable result. Okay.
Yes.
So fantastic. Mirka's already put 1 in escrow. Blake's already put 1 in escrow. So, I think 3, 4, 5 people have put 1 in escrow. So it's definitely let's go time. Would you guys like